we talking about?
What's up, True Feelings family? How you guys doing today? If you're new to my channel, my name is Crystal, and I hope you stay. And if you do, welcome to put a thumbs up if you one of the strong women in here that been through some shit, went through some fires, but you still here and you a better person today. Put a thumbs up. You know that's the one thing I never say, but based on what we talking about in the story I'm gonna read at the end, put a thumbs up for all the strong females and males. Now, those of y'all that been following the story, let's just go back and continue on with my tragic past life. So we ended off where these assholes, the donor's grandmother and this father, came up with some bullshit and had my children taken away with allegations of sexual abuse that I watched while my boyfriend did this shit. All bunch of BS. Now, here's the thing about CPS. It's really messed up when a person could just call on you. They don't investigate nothing. They just automatically go, okay, we got to save and remove the kids, not realizing you're really damaging certain people's kids when there's nothing going on. So here's the thing. What I didn't understand is why you didn't call the police. Why you didn't call the police and have us arrested if what in fact I told you guys is true. That was the one thing that I couldn't understand. I'm like, well, if this man assaulted my kids and I watched, we should both be in jail. Listen, y'all, he called because he called before we had this thing where I had to break up with him. He called. We both called these people. We left countless voicemails. Did not get one return call back. Now, I hate to say this. Like I said, I don't know if it was because he was white or not. But here it is. Nothing happened. At the end of the day, I ended up breaking up with him because I had to. I wanted my kids back. Here's the thing about being a young girl and not really knowing anything about relationships because you only been in one. And I'm just kind of going off a little bit. And I'm talking about the relationship that I had with the guy Fred, white boy. You know, here I'm thinking, because I'm young. You think as a man has got a job, but he's selling drugs. I thought that was a double whammy, in a good thing though. I thought that was a good thing. He got a job and a drug dealer. Because growing up with the donor, that's all I knew. And so to me, that type of situation and relationship was normal, and there was nothing wrong with it because nobody had told me fucking different. So it was normal. You know what I'm saying? I just wish I would have been told more as a young girl about relationships, about men, about just growing into womanhood and what to expect. I never had those conversations from anybody. And you got to remember, I was raised in a Christian home. All they did was talk about the Bible. But I just wish I would have had a little bit more direction on what to expect when you get out into the world. Here it is. My ass is homeless, y'all. I don't have a home. I end up going back to my friend's Paula's house. Her mother let me go back and stay with them because, like I said, they had a big home and everything. And Miss Pauline, she was a Haitian lady. She was no nonsense, but she would help anybody who needed help. If you needed food, she was going to feed you. But, you know, she's known me since I was a teenager. So I was able to move back in there with them, have my own room, wasn't sharing it. Like I literally had my own room, but something was wrong. They was into some possession shit, but that's a whole nother story. So now, this is when I find out my friend Paula was a heroin addict. And it's funny because the whole time I lived with them, I never saw her do anything other than the little shit that we was doing. Didn't see her put needles. I didn't see any of that. And from the time that I moved out of her house with my kids, with my little boy, the guy I was with then, I want to say it was 6 or 7 months in between me having to go back there. But like I said, at that point, I didn't know she was into shit like that. It was just a surprise. But not so much as a surprise where it just did something to me because I was going through my own shit. I was crying too much, y'all, and I think I was getting on my friends' nerves, the friends that's supposed to be my friends. So they was like, gave me the shit, but they didn't put it in my arm. They dripped it through, they put it in my nose. They mixed it up and put it in my nose. Horrible experience, throwing up, itching, nodding. I really didn't like it, but I kept doing it. when they gave it to me with, that's how I got into speedballs, cocaine and heroin mix, takes away the nod and stuff. I did that for a while, not for a while because things was moving really fast. I finally went to one of the first court dates, and I could be a little off how things happened because, like I said, it was a long time ago. So I think it was just like a readiness hearing. I still didn't know where my kids was located. They don't tell you where your kids are, so it's a really horrible thing to have to go through, dealing with the court system. It just feel like your kids was just killed. That's what it felt like to me. It's like you took everything that I ever had. I wasn't a bad mother, but I wasn't a perfect mother, but I didn't deserve what was happening to me at that time, you know. So although they couldn't tell me who my kids was living with, they did give me my first visitation. So my first visitation, you guys, it was so fucked up, y'all. It was at a McDonald's, at a damn McDonald's. My baby was just turning 1, just started working. The lady who had my two babies were separated. The 2 kids were in the same foster home. But this lady who had my baby, she, wasn't no damn cell phones then, so she gave me a little Polaroid picture of my baby like walking. And so that was really sweet of her. But that was the hardest day of my life because they tell you, and when I went to court, that when I go on these visits, I am not to bring up the case. I'm not to ask my kids what's happening. I'm not to say anything. They said if you say anything, your visits will be taken away from you, period. I said, damn, because at this point it was like, no, I didn't get to that court date. So that's what that was. My first visit was like, and kids don't understand, especially my oldest son. I feel like out of all the kids, he was affected the most because he was 6 years old. So he didn't understand. And I'll tell you stuff that we talk about now today, but he just did not understand that. And so to have a visit with your kids, and your kids are looking at you thinking, oh my God, my mama's coming to get me, right? My mama's coming to get me. And then she walks away and your kids are crying. Y'all want to cry that right now, but I'm not. I'm going to keep this shit together. And then you just got to walk away. That was one of the hardest, started off as being one of the hardest days ever. And that I can remember was the first day after that visit when I went back to, back home with living at my friends, where I demanded that I shoot this shit in my arm. That's how I wanted it. And she told me no. I remember having this conversation, said if you don't do it, I'll fucking do it myself. I'll just do it myself. Anyway, she ended up doing that. Because she didn't want me giving myself an abscess and shit. But further down the line, I got a whole lot of those. And I think from that point on, I didn't stop. No one told me that if you just stop doing this shit for about 3-4 days, you'll be okay. Because I didn't do it for maybe a couple of days, and I woke up sick one day, but I didn't know that I was dope sick until my friend told me, girl, you dope sick. If you just, you'll be okay. No one told me if you just wait it out, sweat it out for a few days, this shit'll be over. You ain't got to do it no more. But at this point, I'm addicted. Anybody have ever been on the H and coke? It's very addictive, and it's hard to get off, especially when you're going through something, because it takes away, I don't know, it drowns out whatever you're dealing with. It just took away the crying. It just took away emotions. It took me away. Let's just say that. It took me away. Heroin made me a person that I didn't know who I was once I really got into it. So now I have more court dates. And these court dates, my mom was showing up too. Now, at this point, nobody in my family knew that I was starting to be a junkie. My mother, nobody in my family could even tell when I was on this shit, because I would go to court. I remember going to the court date, and she was like, you're handling this very well. And all along, I was high. I was high as a bug, but you could not tell. And maybe she'll be able to tell you one of them stories where she could tell you couldn't tell, unless you just couldn't tell. So what we were going to do, because I had to if I if I took it to trial, then I would still not know where my kids are located. So they had me plead no contest. Well, they didn't have me. It was a choice. And that meant they can go with a family member, So, yes, we're just taking that, because the plan was my mom would take my kids and I was just going to move to LA. And I think if that would have worked out the way we thought it would have worked out, I would have been okay. My mom wasn't going to let me be some nothing ass person. I think my whole life would have been different. But of course that didn't happen. So I'm just going to speed up a little bit. So, of course, when someone is getting your kids, they got to do like the home visits and all that shit. Now, my mom is in LA. My mom literally calls me crying her ass off, upset like shit, because these damn social workers done knocked on her door and accused her of doing something to my little brother, who was the same age as my third son, which was 3 years old. Same age. Now, we know that shit wasn't true, but we know where that shit was coming from. So I just wanted my mom out of it altogether, because I could see what was going on with me. I didn't want anything. I didn't want to feel responsible for something happening, because it wasn't going to give up, because those greedy motherfuckers wanted my kids. So that was just happening. They needed that damn foster care money because they didn't have anything else. So long story short, that's what ultimately ended up happening. My kids ended up going to the donor's grandmother first. They went there first, except for my third oldest son. He didn't look enough like, I can't say the last time, fuck it. He didn't look enough like a Williams. Okay, he didn't look enough like one. So they really would treat him funny because he looked like me. So they would just treated him funny. He ended up living with my grandmother, which I wanted all my kids to go to my grandmother, but she couldn't handle all of them. So I just went with that. So now they're telling me I need to go to, what is those parenting classes, right? It's like, okay, go to parenting classes. Because I think every time they said do this or that, I thought I would get my kids back. Break up with your boyfriend, maybe you get your kids back. Go to parenting classes. Okay, because I don't know how the court system works. So I go to this damn parenting class, you guys. My first time going to this damn parenting class, I'll never forget it. It was just awful. So we're sitting in this damn circle. Now I'm thinking, if I'm going to a parenting class, you're going to teach me how to parent. It's just going to be different. It's going to be women. This is something I've never done before. So this is what I'm thinking is going to happen in my head. So we get there and there's just a bunch of adults, men and women alike, just sitting around in this circle. So the first person who wanted to talk and share was a military white man. He was white. I can still see his face right now. And he's sitting there talking about how what he did to his own 9-month-old child. I got my ass up and I walked out and I didn't go back. Now, back then I was having panic attacks, but I didn't know what those things were because I would cover up all my panic attacks and shit with drugs. But I left and I didn't go back. So it was just a vicious cycle where it just got to the point where I just kept going to court dates and I wasn't doing what the fuck they wanted me to do, because I was not going to go to those parenting classes. I did not belong there and I just wasn't going to do that shit. And then my addiction, it just got worse. And it just got worse. With each court date, it got worse. With each disappointment, it got worse. After each visit, seeing my kids at various places, it fucking got worse. It just didn't get better. I was sucked into this addiction, and no one in my family knew about me being a junkie. So now my mom, she can't come down as much to these court dates. So mama bought me a car. She bought me a car. That way my grandmother wouldn't have to keep taking me to these court dates. I can go find a job. I can go to all these places and do what I need to do. Because according to my mom, everybody think I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So she bought me a car. And all that car did was allowed me to go do more foolish ass shit and to go drive over to get my dope. And, that's all it did. It did nothing. But she didn't know. My mom has always been like that with me from growing up and having my grandparents raise me. Whatever I wanted, if I needed it, she would just buy buy it and just give it to me. We talked about this because it was all out of guilt because she didn't raise me. We talked about it, but we cool as fuck. I love that lady because she made sure that I had everything that I needed to have and that I wanted. She really did. She just didn't know. She had no idea what her daughter was out there doing. So now, meanwhile, back at the ranch at my friend's house, Paula. Now, Paula was dating a military guy. And we have this Filipino friend of us. She also was dating a military guy. Now, she was the one who married the Filipino. She married her military guy first. Now, trust me, both military men, they was very aware of the drug habit that we all had because they were buying drugs for us. So it's not like they didn't know we were all dope fiends, but we wasn't assholes. We just was dope fiends, okay? So that gave me a bright idea. I said, well, damn, if I could get married to somebody in the military, I can get my kids back. I don't have to get back on welfare. I can get insurance for my kids through the military. Like, I just had this whole ass plan of how I was going to do everything. And y'all, it just about worked. But anyway, I'll catch you up what happened after I found my military man and what happened after we got married and how fucked up I became even more after that. But before I go, I want to just share someone's comment with you guys that just, when I read it to my mom, she just started crying. And she cried all the way through, but it had a happy ending at the end. And there was another girl that I read her comment and I didn't even know what to say. Can I just read these before I go, y'all? Adrian Finley is her name. This was on the Grandma Was Right video. She said, Crystal, thank you for sharing your story. I grew up watching my mom get beaten, assaulted, and it breaks something in you. He started assaulting me from 8 to 11 years old. He just kicked our door in and nobody would help us. He hide his car, break in, and wait for me. When I got home from school, I got smart and I stayed in empty apartments that was being constructed or stayed in the woods till my mom got home. When we went to the police, they didn't believe me because he was such a good liar. He said my mom was bitter and coached me on what to say, and he got off scot-free. He retaliated by putting water in our gas tank and shooting up our car. He even broke in and stole my favorite teddy bear and gave it to another woman he was seeing. Yes, he actually did that. The first time he molested me, he took me to his house where his wife and sons live. They were gone, and he did it to me in his wife's bed. It was the first time my mom ever let me go alone with him because he said we were having a father and daughter day. He was a total sicko. He was a director at a drug treatment center where he met my mom. He would pick women in the program that didn't have family, and he'd beat them, make them prostitute, and kept them drugged. Anyway, in my early 20s, Mom ran into an ex-co-worker, and she informed her that he was now working in the school system in a program for young teen girls. I went ballistic when I found out. I was a wife and a mother, and I was strong, so I wasn't having it. I contacted the school board and told my story. They fired him immediately, and his life completely tanked. He was never able to keep a job, lost everything. His wife left him, and he thankfully died in his late 40s. That's the perfect ending. In the end, he got his, but it has affected my whole life. I have really bad PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks, and severe depression. But dang it, I'm still here. Girl, I love you and thank you for coming to every woman's defense and getting this man out of that damn school system. And thank God that his ass is on the other side of the dirt where his punk ass belong, girl. But you a strong one, girl. You got a story. You strong. Thank you for sharing. The other one that had us emotionally kind of fucked up in tears was Chanel. She said, I am a victim of DV to this day. trying to find a way out. I adore you, Crystal, and your channel is my ultimate favorite. I find strength in your story. I'm so glad that you got out of this situation. I've told my mother and she continues to blame me. That fucking pisses me off. That really pisses me off that there are still people out there not believing their goddamn kids when they go to them about some shit that's happening. It's like, who can you go to if you can't go to your mama? Right? Let me go on. Continues to blame me. So it makes it a tougher situation. Trying to figure a way out. Thank you for sharing and God bless you. Listen, all I have to say for her, sometimes you don't really know what to say to people when they tell you fucked up shit. You really don't know what to say to people. I'm praying for you, baby, and I'm praying that you'll get out of it. Sometimes God will do what we can't. So hopefully that's what's going to happen with you. If you can't do it, God going to have to do it for you. God can do what we can. That's all, y'all. I'll see y'all with something else later on. Don't be an asshole. Bye. Say my shit too light. You ain't like, put it in your eye.